Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Stitch Sessions. As you can see, I'm working away on my ugly Christmas sweater for this year, and I want to add on an extra embellishment. So last year, I took some of you through the Christmas tree applique, as well as this really cute star applique here. We also talked about creating this ornament here, the rounded Christmas bauble ornament. And this year, I'm going to show you how we're going to make this Elipse Christmas bauble. And depending on how old you are, you may remember a time when there were they were glass balls, but they were colored glass. And a lot of them had this ellipse shape. And actually, I know I have a couple buried around somewhere. I can't seem to find them at the moment. But I decided to make an ellipse shape to add on to my sweater. So last year I actually just kept the Christmas tree and the star. Now you can actually make this for anything. You can make it for scarves or blankets, but I just happen to be putting it on my Christmas sweater, and I've decided to make it a thing where annually I will add a couple of new appliques. So this year I'm adding these baubles. I made that one last year, and I'm going to add this one this year. Now this is using the granny type motif. A lot of times, like this one for example, the tree, we use the granny triangle. This one was pretty straightforward. It's just a circle. Now the triangle, as you know, has 3 corners. So we created the 3 corners with the granny square method of doing it. Now with the ellipse, because it's not a perfect circle, we use the granny technique, I guess we'll call it, to create 2 points, but then still have it rounded on the top. So that is what we used at the top and at the bottom, and that's what I'm going to show you today. And what's really cool, because I didn't do any increasing, see how it creates this really cool dome shape, which will make it look that much more 3D-like, and I just love it. So without further ado, we're just going to grab all of our materials and we're going to show you how to make this really sweet Christmas bauble applique. All right, let's get crocheting. In order to make our ellipse shaped Christmas bauble, we're going to need a couple of different colors of your choice. I choose to do 3 different colors, so I've got some scraps of pink, purple, and yellow. You can do it in any size you like. These are generally medium 4 size yarns. I'm using a 5mm hook for this particular project. Again, whatever hook size fits the yarn that you're using will work. And as usual, a pair of scissors and a darning needle to sew in your ends or sew on your applique at the end. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the pink color first. So this is a great scrap busting project. Now, this is another design that kind of takes its inspiration from the granny shell type shape. So I'm going to start this project with a cinch circle. I'm going to wrap around all 3 of my fingers here. I'm going to pull through to create a loop, and now I want to secure that loop by chaining 1. And then I've created my cinch circle, which really is just an oversized slip knot. Okay, and then I take my tail out of the way. So what we're going to do is chain another 2 to create the height of a double crochet stitch. So in this example, I'm using double crochets. We're going to double crochet 4 more double crochets into the center of the circle. So we want a total of 5. This counts as 1. Okay, so we'll yarn over, insert our hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And again, we will have a link to our double crochet tutorial in the description box below if you feel you need a little bit more of a refresher on that stitch. So we've done 4 so far, we need 1 more. Okay, so we have a total of 5, including our chain 3. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We now are going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we are going to repeat that. We're going to do 5 double crochets back into this circle. So we'll yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull through. Pull through the first 2, then yarn over and pull through the second 2. So I need to do 4 more of these. So that's 2, that's 3, 4, and 1 more gives me 5. Okay, and now I'm going to do chain 2, chain 2, and now I want to connect it back over here. And believe it or not, it's going to happen. So I'm going to take my little short tail and I'm going to cinch this center shut, nice and tight, and you can see it's brought me much closer to the other side. So then I will find the top of my chain 3, 1, 2, 3. I'll insert my hook there and slip stitch the first round shut. Okay, so it kind of now looks like a bit of an egg shape, which is perfect for developing our ellipse shape ball here. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to slip stitch our way across to this next space here. Okay, so we are going to insert and pull through, insert, pull through, all the way around, just so that we can get into a nice clean space to start off with. Now we're going to slip stitch into that space, and in order to maintain our corner here, we're now going to do a shell, chain 2, and shell. Okay, so we're going to chain 3 to give us our height, 1, 2, 3. We're going to do 2 more double crochets into this space to create our shell. Remember, a shell consists of 3 double crochets. Now I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and do another 3 double crochets back into that space. So we have 1, 2, 3. Okay. So see, that just extends the shape of that corner there. Okay, now what we're going to proceed to do is we're going to do a double crochet into each and every single stitch until we get back to the next space. So we yarn over, and we want to make sure that we move this out of the way because the top of this stitch is always usually nestled right in there. Okay, so that will help us keep our proper stitch count going. And into the very next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, whoops, double crochet. Okay, and you're probably thinking, well, what was the point of slip stitching all the way across to that space when we could have just stitched our way there using double crochets? And the reason being is we wanted to start that shell nice and cleanly inside a space. If we had started here, it just kind of squares it off too much, and for me, I just aesthetically didn't like the look. So I like the look of a clean chain coming over and starting like nestled into the space. It's a personal preference. You absolutely could have just started double crocheting, but I like this cleaner look better. So, and if that just totally went over your head, don't worry about it, because it all comes out the same in the end. So now I'm into the corner space again, so I'm going to do a shell stitch, which is 3 double crochets into that space. I'm going to do 1 more. And now I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to do a shell stitch back into that space again. So space, and 1 more. And as we come around here, we want to remember that this has been slip stitched, so it's going to be a little thicker. So when you yarn over, Remember that this is your chain 3, so you want to go into the top there for your first stitch. First double crochet. The second double crochet you'll have to go through the slip stitch as well as the back of that stitch. So that's the second one. And the third one is right there. And the next one is right there. And the fifth one is right in there. So don't ever be afraid to just kind of pull your work a little bit. Just stretch it out. Just helps you see these stitches a lot better. So there we have it. And now we are going to slip stitch to the top of our first chain 3 set. And that is the end of row or round 2. And now we really have much more of an ellipse or egg shape. Pretty. And at this point I'm going to fasten off because I am done with this color. And I'm just going to snip and fasten off. And make sure your center is cinched. Of course, we can always weave that in afterwards. And now I'm going to introduce my purple color. So I just want to create a bit more of a trim around here, a little bit of contrast. So I am going to start with a slip knot in this case. Then I will insert my hook anywhere along here. I usually like to start anywhere to the right of the actual knot where I ended, just so that I can work my way over and around this. In fact, I'm going to snip this a little bit shorter because I like working right over my short tail there. Okay, so we are going to insert anywhere along the top of any of these stitches, and we are going to slip stitch to secure our yarn. Once I can get myself organized here. There we go. Pull through. Good. And now in this row, what I want to do is I want to do half double crochets. So I'm going to chain 2 and yarn over, and into the very next stitch I'm going to do a half double crochet. So remember, that means I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Okay, and this chain 2 will count as 1. So that's why we move to the very next stitch. So into the next one, yarn over, and now this is where I'm getting close to that fastening off. But see, the top of this stitch is still right here. So I'm going to insert my hook. Ooh, can be a little bit snug here. Very tight there. Okay, and then pull through. I'm just going to collect these under as I go. So I'm going to work over them and pull through all 3. Okay, so again, yarn over. Now the top of this stitch, the next stitch will be right here, because remember, this belongs to this post here. So the next stitch will be right there, the top of that stitch. And I'm just securing down these short tails here, so don't let that confuse you. And I'm going to pull through all 3. Okay, so what that's doing is just creating a nice little trim around the way there. So we are going to do that into the top of each and every single stitch, a half double crochet. And once you get into your space, you're going to do 2 half double crochets. So I'm into my space now, and I'm just going to do 2 half double crochets right into that space, so that way it maintains my stitch count. And then I continue on. The top of the stitch is right there, and I just keep going along. So 1 half double crochet into each and every single stitch, all the way around, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, and I'm coming up to the end of round 3, and I am just going to slip stitch into the top of my chain 2. It's going to be a little tricky to see, but it's right there. That's the top of my chain 2. Insert your hook and pull through both loops. And now you've got this nice trim happening here. Oops. So I'm going to snip my yarn and fasten off, and it's curling up a little bit because we didn't increase in this row. So, but that is nothing to worry about. You can just kind of flatten that out with the heat of your hand a little bit. And so we've still got this nice ellipse shape happening. Okay. This I will weave in, and the reason why is because my final trim row, I want to start at the tip here because I want to create a little bobble, kind of like what I did with this circle. See how at the top I just did that little edge there where you put the yarn through. So I'm going to create the same thing for this ellipse shape. So for my final trim color, I'm going to use the yellow. And this final row here, which would be technically row 4, is simply going to be a slip stitch round, just to kind of give a nice pop, a nice contrast here. So I will start with a slip knot, and I will absolutely start in a corner, which would be at the top, and this is right here where these two half double crochets are. I'm actually going to start right on the side here, and instead of, you're thinking maybe why won't you start in the center, and that's because eventually I want to create a little bit, I need 2 stitches, so I'm going to go over this way and then back again, and that will keep me perfectly centered. So I'm going to start it right there. Okay, so I will slip stitch, and then I will go right into the very next stitch and slip stitch again. And that's going to be this whole row. Just insert, pull through all the way. So see how it's just creating a nice little border there? That's all we want to do here. So go ahead, slip stitch into each and every single stitch until you get back up to the beginning again. Okay, and we're coming up to our last couple of stitches. We're just slip stitching, and I'm going to slip stitch right in there, and I'm actually going to slip stitch into that first slip stitch there, but I'm actually only going to do it into the yellow itself. So I'll slip stitch to join. Now I'm going to create that little ridge part or bobble part where the yarn will hang. So I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet back into that same spot, and then I'm going to single crochet into the next one. Oops, again making sure only to go through that front one. Okay, and so what that does is that just creates this nice little bobble part, I guess we'll call it, and there you have it. That's plenty. You can do another row, but I feel like 1 is enough just to give the effect. And then I am actually going to slip stitch back over onto the back. Instead of into the next stitch here, I'm going to go into the back loop here of this one, and I'm going to slip stitch and then pull this up a bit just to create that effect of a hanging yarn, just like what I did here. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to snip off my yarn, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and tie it in a knot at the very bottom of this. I'm just going to do that to secure that in there. Now that loop is secure, and then I can use this to just kind of close up any gaps here, sew that in a bit, even that out. And there we have our ellipse shaped Christmas ornament. And again, I'm going to use this on my ugly Christmas sweater. So I hope you've enjoyed these Christmas applique tutorials. If you have any questions, as always, make sure to leave them in the comment boxes below. Or you can always email me directly at info@crochetcrafty.com. And remember to click subscribe if you'd like to stay up to date on all of our crochet tutorials, and if you enjoy watching some of our stitch session conversations. In the meantime, happy crocheting and happy holidays, everyone.